Welcome back to Prairie Public's weekly web chats. I'm Darcy Bachyard, and today I'm going to share a few different tools to help make the search for information and the curation of information just a little bit easier for students. But I also know that some different aspects of research, including just the physical typing of a research paper, can really slow different students down. So today I want to share a couple quick tools that could perhaps make that research process a little bit easier for some of our learners, as well as help them find and keep good resources. So let's get started. Today's resource sheet looks a little bit different. It's a hyperdoc with primarily tech tools that I think help make hearing students a little bit easier. To me, that's the whole point of tech. We've said that many times in this web chat series, but to me, we use technology because it helps push students deeper into their thinking or it helps make the learning process a little bit easier and helps support all learners so that they can be successful in that quest. So today's resource hyperdoc is a list of some of my favorite resources. So we're going to do a little bit of a quick tour, and I'm going to try to connect all of these back to some research and writing tasks that can be used K through 12. We're going to start by looking at two websites that specifically curate content for students. There are two listed here on the hyperdoc. We have Dogo News, which is designed for elementary school students, and Newsella. I would say Newsella is designed more for middle school and high school students. However, because of a handy Lexile changing feature that's built into Newsella, Newsella's articles can really be shifted all the way down to second and third grade. So Newsella is still a great research option for elementary school teachers. So we're going to start with Newsella and dive into a few related tools, and then we'll come back and check out Dogo. So let's start by going to Newsella. I've already logged in. I have a teacher account. So I've logged in. You can create accounts so that your students are in a classroom so that you can assign them articles. Pretty handy, but students can also just browse Newsella. The advantages of having an account are I can look at articles that have been saved by me. I can go to my classes. I don't have anyone in here for this email address. When I taught at West Fargo, I had my different classes in here, and then all of my students were in here. And I liked that because I could, as I said, send articles to groups. Now let's look just a little bit why I like this. I particularly like the text set option of Newsella. So you can find different text sets. And if you notice, they have text sets for a lot of different content areas. So Spanish text sets, text for science, for literature, for social studies, even for math. And so we can be supporting content reading skills in all of our different subjects. So let's just take a look at one of these text set collections. Within this, you will see these different groups of text sets. And when you find a group that is of interest to you, that connects to your learning standards, you can click on that set, and then it shows you all of the articles that are connected to that topic. Some have more or fewer than others. At West Fargo, I frequently used a text set that was about fake news, and that at the time, 2 years ago, had about 6 articles in it. So then I would use that text set and jigsaw. Different students would receive different articles. I would assign the entire text set. My students set at tables, so then people at the tables had to each pick a different article. So it was things like that, lots of different ways to use this. Once you get into an article, let's look at how does erosion happen. All right, so when I'm in this article, a couple of the things that I like. One, right up here at the top, you can change the lexile for your students. So you can set it all the way up at a 12th grade level, and you can see what happens here. We have the first paragraph, but I can also adjust the lexile down. I'll be honest, this is something that I did not share with all of my students, because otherwise a lot of them who wouldn't need it would adjust all the way down. And you can see now it's a 3rd grade level. There's only 415 words compared to when I'm assigning these to 12th graders, it's obviously 3 times as long. So I did not show this feature. I learned the hard way. I did not show this feature to all of my students. However, for certain learners, I would show them, and I certainly showed this to all of the English language learners and all of the support staff who were working with students who were maybe at a lower reading level and needed a little bit more support. Within the article, you can also tell your students to complete the activities. You can have a little writing prompt, or you can tell them that they have to take the quiz. These are not deep, higher order level thinking. These are basic knowledge, Bloom's basic level of taxonomy questions, but it's a nice built-in feature of just doing a quick check for your students. So you can assign those quizzes. While we're in this article, I also want to show you a few different extensions that can help support students in their navigation of the article itself. All of these resources are listed on the Teacher Tech tool, HyperDoc. So we're going to start with this Mercury Reader extension. This really just changes what the article looks like. This won't be super dramatic in Newsella, but up here in my Chrome extensions, these only work in Chrome, but they add this lovely little toolbar across the top of my web page. And if I'm in this article and I click this little Mercury Reader rocket ship, what it's going to do is take away all of the other clutter from the article. So I have a nice clean copy to read, and for me, most importantly, if students need to print it, they can print a clean copy instead of printing all of the ads. Like I said, this doesn't show as much of a difference when you're looking at something like Newsella that doesn't have a ton of ads and things on it anyway. But if we look at this article about climate change, you can see all of these ads on the side. I've even got this dumb little video. When I click the Mercury Reader now, it takes all of that away. So think about your readers who struggle getting through articles, who struggle doing things. Mercury Reader is a nice, simple Chrome extension. These are all free tools that you can add. You do need to be browsing in Chrome browser, but now look at this article. So now I just have the text of the article. I just have the images that are connected to the article itself. Compare that, and I can exit back out of Mercury Reader, compare that to what I was trying to read when I was on the website. I've got all of these side margins, I've got these ads, I've got this video, I've got other embedded videos. So Mercury Reader is a nice way to just clear out the clutter and help your students focus on what they need to do. So the Mercury Reader is a nice option, but I want to show you a tool that has a few built-in layers. So Mercury Reader is nice if you're just reading and you want to clear away some of the clutter, either for yourself or your students. If I want to now actually use this article, or if that was my intention all along, I might skip over Mercury Reader and go right to my Diigo editor. Diigo is this great little web editor. You'll find him here on the hyperlink. And if I go back to my article, when I click my Diigo button, you wouldn't have to have Diigo in your Chrome browser. Diigo is a website, so you can use that on different browsers. But the nice thing about the extension is I don't have to open my Diigo account separately. So I can just click on my Diigo extension button. I click on my read and annotate. I've already logged into my Diigo account, and now Diigo does the same thing Mercury Reader did for me. It clears away the clutter, but I have these extra tools. So I can highlight what I have read, and now I can change the highlighter color. So I can make different notes. I can highlight different topics in different colors. When I highlight something, I can also, and this is my favorite, I can highlight and make a comment. This will be great for point 1. So if I kind of already have an outline in mind, I kind of know what I'm going to be talking about and I'm doing my research project, I can save that content. So while I'm reading, I can be making notes and adding things to that collection. Now, this will show me all of my annotations when I go here. And now, when I go to my Diigo library, you can already see I had logged into my Diigo library. That article I was just annotating is right here. So for me, this is huge. I can't tell you the number of times that I had students who had printed out an article and somehow could not get back to that article. They couldn't find it. Or worse yet, they had copied and pasted some pieces of the article into a Word document, but had not copied the link to the article. So they weren't organizing their information. So I like this method where I can read online, I can annotate right within the article, and then all of my notes are saved right here in Diigo. And when I can't find that article again, all I need to do is click my Diigo link and it takes me back to the article. And then I can go into my Diigo for this article. I can go into my Diigo for this article and there are all of my annotations. My notes are all here. So I can go back and look at what I had typed. I have all of my notes here and I can remember everything that I was going to say. In addition, I have some collaboration options now. I can get a shareable link to this article so I could send it to my teacher and show my teacher what I have been working on. I could share it to a group. This is a great option. You can set up Diigo groups. I don't have any set up in my personal library right now, but this allows students to collaborate together so they can set up groups, and then if they're researching a similar topic, they could all be sharing resources to that same group. So Diigo is just a nice curation tool that helps kids stay organized, particularly if they're doing the bulk of their research online. So I highly recommend Diigo because you can embed all of your annotation, you can embed your note-taking, you have this clear archive right there where students can't lose their articles. They can create folders, they can create groups, so they can organize their research. And I just think that it's a very handy, I've used a few other different research curation tools, and for me, I find this one the easiest. All right, so we looked at Newsella, the more high school leaning option, and just a quick tour of Dogo News. It does a lot of the same thing that Newsella does, but like I said, it is designed for elementary school students. So the topics, the articles, everything, the way it's scaffolded is going to be designed for your younger readers. One of the great features that Dogo News has built in is this lovely read aloud option. So students have found an article that they want to read.
Yes, your dog does understand you. By Mercury Reader on November 25th, 2018. Most dog owners are convinced that their four-legged friends know exactly what they mean when they use certain words like sit, stay, or treat.
I think the potential and the power for this to support struggling readers is through the roof. Students can search and find articles that are of interest to them. You can assign a general reading time where kids are reading informational texts, but students can choose what kind of text they want to read. Certainly, you also have some class features. You can create an account, you can create a classroom. Unlike Newsella, Dogo News does integrate with Google Classroom, so that's one option. If you're a Google school, you can just import your Google Classroom right to Dogo News and assign things for students from there. But you wouldn't have to have an account to just read the articles and explore things. I'm logged into my teacher account, which means that I have this little plus sign. There are some free features, and as with so many great tech tools, there are also some paid features. So keep that in mind. It does integrate with Google Classroom for free, so you can easily share assignments, share articles with students. There are some assignment and worksheet options. Those are located down at the bottom of the article. Some of those are part of the Pro feature, so you would have to decide. But the nice thing, you do have this little built-in vocabulary game that students can do a little bit of a word search or just a reminder of what those words are. So they have this nice little built-in toolkit. So a nice way for students to explore current events, to explore different types of topics, just another resource if you're trying to support readers. I think the two biggest advantages of Dogo News, like I said, are the fact that it's not nonfiction informational texts. Students can choose topics that are of interest to them, and there's that great read aloud feature that also highlights the text. So I think that this is a nice, simple tool to add to your teacher toolkit. So we've talked a little bit about how to find different articles and some tools to use for reading them, but a few quick research tips. If you scroll down to the third page of the HyperDoc, there are these first three things that I want to show you in terms of helping your students be better searchers when they're working online. These are all for Chrome. I tend to be a Chrome and Google-driven teacher, but these are some fun extra tools. Google has this Talk to Books feature that you can type in a question and it will search any book that is published online for them to get some quotes. Here is one of the biggest tools. Most of you will have your students will be able to search EBSCO through the Odin, North Dakota library, but also train your students that when they're doing Google searches, they can Google smarter by using Google Scholar and by using Google News. This will take out the other stuff that they would come across. So show them this Google Scholar. And notice you can also have them look at case law. So there are a nice few options here for searching. And then another kind of fun search option for your kiddos is this Google Trends. And it is interesting just to look at because it shows you some of the different trends that are going on right now and the different searches that are currently taking place. So you can zoom in to different searches that are going on in different places. So you can follow it to the United States. You can search trending topics. So if you're finding some hot items, and to get to that, I just clicked on the trends. You can also click on any of these boxes to go to that topic as well. Again, you can see the real-time search trends. So just something a little bit different, a little bit interesting to spice up their searches and to help them be more productive in their search. You can see that after these 3 search options, I have just kind of a random hodgepodge of different cool tricks, a lot of them different tools that are built right into Google, but just a few different fun tools and resources. So check those out as works for you. But I want to finish up this conversation about research by now looking at a couple of tools to help your students while they're actually starting the writing process. So we talked about some different news organizations, Dogo News, Newsella, places where students can find articles, places like Google Scholar, Google News, as well as the resources you're already using like Odin and whatever search engines, EBSCOhost, etc., that you use in class. We talked about some ways to filter some of that search and to help them read while they're online. But now let's talk about 2 of my favorite tools to help them be productive writers. There's a lot of stuff out there, but 2 of my go-tos are speech notes and the Grammarly extension. And here's why. As a high school teacher, I've spent a lot of hours watching students hunt and peck. And when their end product goal is a 3 to 5 page paper, the ability, the skill level of students to be able to type really becomes a limiting factor in how much they're able to accomplish in any given class period. So to help level the playing field, I like having any kind of auditory note taking, and one that I have found and been using is speech notes. So again, up in my Chrome extension box, when I'm ready to use speech notes, I just click my little extension. Now, a warning, when I was going through this today, there were some funky things that were going on with speech notes. So if it's not working for you, please do send me a message and I'll do my best to troubleshoot with you. It's working on my device, but I was getting some notices that it wasn't compatible with my Chrome browser anymore. But mine is working, so just a warning up front. But I want to show you what something like speech notes can do. There are other apps out there. I clicked my extension button. I now have this little generic thing open. I click my microphone and now I can dictate to my computer and it will type what I'm writing, period. I do have to give it specific commands in order to insert punctuation, comma, so you can anticipate that some students won't be able to do that consistently or effectively, period. Now I have this text. You can see because I'm also logged into my Grammarly account, which is this Grammarly extension. This is a free online proofreader. It does talk to Google Docs, but what I like it for is it also proofs all of my Facebook posts, my Twitter posts, and it does work with this lovely little speech notes app. So now I can Grammarly this, and we'll see if I have any grammar mistakes in here. It does have this one thing that it's drawing my attention to. And you can see that it's not perfect, but I have the basics here. Students have to go back and edit. I do have to, and this should read give. So students do have to go back and edit, but what a blessing for those students for whom typing is a challenge. Now There are some of these export documents. I'm going to be honest, I find it much faster for the students to highlight it and copy it and then just paste it into their document rather than trying to export it. These tools are over here, but I have not found them particularly helpful in terms of getting to my document. I found it just a hair clunky, and for me, copying and pasting was way faster. And then that way too, I could work in chunks, and instead of having 10 documents created, I could just keep cutting and pasting as I was ready to dictate something and then paste it into the same document. While we're on that note of cutting and pasting, while it sounds ridiculous, I highly encourage you to teach your students the command shortcuts for highlighting, copying, and cutting and pasting content. I'm always blowing students' minds when I come over to help them and they're struggling, particularly on laptops that don't have a mouse with them. They really struggle and it takes them forever to copy and highlight things. So I particularly show them the Control A that will copy everything, the Control A that will highlight everything, the Control C that will copy everything, the Control X that will cut everything, and then the Control V which will paste everything. And when I show them those very basic commands, it really speeds up their work in their Word documents. And for several years, I took for granted that high school kids knew those shortcuts, and then very quickly realized that at least half of the students did not. So it was worth the 3-minute tutorial that it took me to show them those shortcuts quick in order to help speed up their writing. There are a lot of other tools on this little quick tech tools, but those are some of the big ones that I wanted to share with you to help students find more informational texts, to help them be reading things that are of interest to them, to support them while they're reading those texts, to support them in the annotation and curation of those texts, and finally, to help them in that process of actually taking those ideas and getting them into a Word document. There are a lot of different extensions out there. I encourage you to have a conversation with your students and ask them what they're using in order to do some of these things. Students will more than likely have tools that are even better than the tools that I've shown you today. And if they're already familiar with it, or if another teacher has already taught them a different speech notes like app, I would encourage you to continue using the same thing that your colleagues are using. I do think that there's a great advantage to trying to limit the number of different tools that kids are trying to learn so that we can maximize their efficiency while using those tools. And those are some of my favorite tools for making the research process just a hair easier. Hopefully you found a few different tools that can help you help students elevate their work, make it more efficient, more productive, and give you the opportunity to hear more of what your students know. To me, that's always the goal. Good luck as you're winding up through this holiday season. And let me know if there's anything that I can support you with. Remember, Prairie Public provides me as a content coach for free. So if there's anything I can help you with, don't hesitate to ask.